let me see that again. In her desire to do the right thing or avoid conflict, she ends up taking on problems that God himself never intended her to take on. God's got stuff for you to do.
Yeah.
He's got, we talked last Sunday about everybody's got a cross. And everybody's got to get up on the cross, and so you got stuff to carry. But sometimes we take on things and responsibility for things that God did not intend us to have to carry. You don't have to necessarily say anything, but can you think of anything that you have or are taking on or carrying with you? Just think that God might not have intended you to carry. Responsibilities that's really somebody else's problem, but for some reason I'm stuck with it. In our homes, in our families, in our lives, our friends' issues that they want to come to us and have us fix. Meanwhile, we've got our own things that we have to deal with. Boundaries are important because just as a homeowner's set of physical properties lie around their land, we have to have mental, physical, and emotional and spiritual boundaries for our lives to help us distinguish what is our responsibility and what's not. I landscaped for about a year, before I got into the job, well before I got into the job that I have now. We used to have, on Thursdays, we did what we called the football fields. And the football fields were a set of 8 houses that were right next to each other. Had yards that were about a good football field wide. No markings between the houses. No fences, just, they had their landscaping, their shrubbery and everything around their house, but these were just houses situated between acre-long properties that we'd have to go. And you didn't necessarily know from looking at it where one person's yard ended and the next person's yard began. So you get to the last one and you're trying to figure out how far out do I need to cut on this last one. And you kind of had to look at the grass and see where the cut looked like it was a little bit different to see, is this part of what I have to take care of? Is it part of what I don't have to take care of? Now, in the absence of that, let's say you're one of those people living in these houses with these large sets of land, and you want to put something in your yard and you need to know where your yard ends, then you talk to the city, or the neighbors all come to an understanding. This is the marker, we take out a ruler, we go out a quarter mile from here, and this is the end of my land, this is where I stop, this is where you begin, whatever happens over here, you're responsible for, whatever's going on over here, I'm responsible for it. But if there's no city records, if there's no fences, if there's no markers, well, once upon a time, that's when people got into shootouts over what was going on properties because nobody knew whose land it was. So if I want to have a dog and my dog's going to mess in a yard, how do I know it's their yard versus my yard? Either we got fences to mark stuff up, or we come to an understanding. Everybody understands you're responsible for what happens at your house, on your property. The question is, where is your property? Right? Boundaries for people work the same way. It defines what is me and what's not me. Because each of us are people as a part of a collective. We live with people, we interact with people. Yet we're not them and they're not us. Riley, you're sitting next to 2 of your sisters. They're your family. You guys share DNA. But they're not you and you're not them. And so where do you end and where do they begin? Boundaries. We and people, healthy people, have to have mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual boundaries. That's one of the things Townsend talks about. I wish I would have brought my board out here, but maybe next week we'll get to it. Don't worry about getting it today. We'll be fine. Mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual boundaries. Which one of those would you say is most important?
All of them.
Mental.
Emotional.
Spirit.
Spiritual boundaries, what'd you say?
Mental.
Mental, what'd you say?
I say all of them. I said emotional.
Emotional?
But they all probably play.
What about physical?
I was not going to say that.
Physical boundaries. I mean, they say that the most important organ of the body is the skin. Skin forms the body. I like your answer because it was a bad question to begin with. It reflects Greek thinking, but people are not compartmentalized. People aren't compartmentalized and to say that something is strictly physical, something is strictly emotional, something is strictly spiritual, something is strictly mental is a misnomer. These things feed into each other. And realistically, what I would have done if I had them on a board is that I would have written each one next to each other and asked which one was most important. And then I would have taken the 4 and made a square out of them to create a perimeter fence. If any of them are lacking, then it becomes an issue.